We just rolled here. It is June the 28th, 2020. I'm coming at you with a video. We're going to go through our normal stuff too, but I got a couple extra things here also that I want to talk about. Pretty interesting stuff. But we're going to start here, like I said before in my previous video. I'm going to start reading a couple of the comments because I think it's just nice to do that so you guys know that I'm actually reading them, even though sometimes I can't respond or whatever because it gets to be, you know, sometimes there's between 600 and 1,000 comments, and it's kind of hard to go through all that and reply to everyone. I do read them, I can tell you that. And some of them are very, very funny. Some of them are just right on point, and some of them are, well, let's face it, they're mean. But I usually just leave it all up there. You guys know how I roll. Anyway, this is from Legal Eaglet. If I pronounce that wrong, I do apologize. But I like this one because I think this is a very, very common question that most people have, especially when they're first trying to understand what's going on. So does anyone else get dizzy and feel generally physically ill when this happens? My head hurts, my equilibrium gets messed up, and I feel nauseous. Am I alone, or does this really affect our bodies? Well, Legal, I can tell you right now, you're not alone. If you hang around here for any length of time, you'll probably figure out real quick that we talk about the Schumann quite often, because it is very important and it does affect us immediately. That's what some people kind of overlook. They think that sometimes you can just walk in or ease into something. That's not how this works. When that frequency starts going off or gets spiking, and I'm going to show you a spike here in a minute, I can tell you right now you're going to feel it immediately, especially with your ringing in your ears. That's one of the more common immediate responses we get. Sometimes it would take a little bit extra to get the headache, usually. At least that's been my experience, and I'm sure some people experience it a little bit different than what I do. And we all need to understand that we're all going to experience this a little different than each other. It could be similar, but it's not going to be exactly the same, because our bodies aren't exactly the same with each other. But yeah, I just thought that was a really good comment. And you guys see this right here? This is what I love. You see where it says 3 replies? I went and read those replies, but I didn't show them here. But that's what I love, because I didn't even have to really say anything, because you guys did it for me. And you guys were on point. You're trying to help and explain things to people, and that's what I love, because that's what we need. We need more of that. And I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate that when you guys do that. Those of you guys that know the answer to some of these questions, or the majority of them, I encourage you to do that. I think it helps. So, but yeah, here's another one. I told you guys you can even criticize me, and this is a half joke. I know. I just thought it was kind of funny, but it's also, relevant to what we talk about. This is from Acts 412 Productions. It says, here is some criticism. Where are the live streams? Then he's laughing. Love to see some team ups in a stream, like maybe you and say Mr. MBB3. I would love to work with Mr. MBB3. I think he does great work. You guys know I talk about him quite often. I don't think he streams a whole lot with other people. I'm not. Matter of fact, I don't think I've ever seen him stream with anybody but himself. Maybe his son. And if you guys don't know, his son has a channel too. It's called Brandon B. I would, or B Brandon, one or the other. Go sub up to that channel. He puts some interesting content in there. Guinness Book of World Records stuff and things like that. It's interesting. But anyway, yeah, I would. And to speak on the live streams, believe it or not, guys, Father's Day just passed. And I got a gift certificate, and I'm going to be getting a mic. And as soon as I get a regular mic, instead of just using what's going through my devices, it's going to make it a lot easier. Because I don't want to do a live stream and have the audio all jacked up where people are having a hard time understanding what I'm saying. The other ones that I had done, I've done a few with Scott. You guys know that, and a couple others. But I was using their stuff. Okay, I was still using my device to go through, but because of the technology that's involved there, it came out fine. But so I'm working on that. So know that that's coming, guys, and keep dropping these comments, guys. I love them. Most of them, 99% of them are positive. Even the criticisms. Okay, seriously. If I'm doing something that you guys think might be wrong or whatever, please tell me. Or if you think I can improve on something, drop it in there. I listen to it. I really do. So yeah. So we'll move on. Okay, guys, we're going to start here at the Schumann, and obviously you're looking at a spike. Now, I got a couple things here I really want to talk about because I think I'm starting to pick up another pattern of sorts, and just stay with me here for a second. This is the latest one we got right here, and you can see you got a spike, actually two spikes. Okay, we see this right here, right? But that's not the whole spike. I'm going to point something out here in just a second. But I want to take you guys back a couple days. And this one here is the one from the 24th. Okay. There was a big spike there. And then we go ahead 2 more days, and there's another spike. Okay. What I'm finding, at least in my opinion, if you guys look, this is crazy, I know, but right around 13 to 1400 hours, 13 to 1400 hours, both of these spikes were virtually the same length of time. Okay, it stopped around 22, and this one stopped around 21, 22. So there you go, guys. You guys make up your mind on what you think on that. But I most certainly think that whatever caused those two spikes, I think they're the same thing. I think the source of whatever changed there, and I think that it has something to do with whatever direction that part of the planet is facing, either towards the sun or away. I'm starting to notice that because we're seeing them they're at least starting at the same time. And then this most recent one, and if you look at this one, it's kind of doing the same thing too, guys. Now, I know it wasn't as intense, but look at the time. Let me get my brush out here. Okay, that started right there, 9 to 10 to about 20 to 21. Okay, now if we go to the previous day, something else I've been noticing too, we tend to just to gravitate towards that white color when we look at this. But look here. If you outline the green, let's do that again. See how that basically made the same shape? What I'm saying is, my experience, guys, I don't think stuff like that's coincidence. I really don't. Especially when we start seeing these spikes start at the exact same time and end at the exact same time. And that's what we're seeing quite often lately. Okay? And what that is that's just a clue to us to be like, hey, that's got to be coming from the same source. Whatever that source is. I don't know what the source is, but I can tell you that it's most definitely coming from the same one. And in my opinion, when something happens like that precise, it's, in my opinion, again, it almost has to be something intelligently doing that. Like I said before, the only other thing I could think of is maybe the sun, because we always face the sun at the same time every day. And so on and so forth. Even if it's coming from behind us, from like maybe something coming from one of the planets or whatever, some sort of magnetic discharge or something from one of the planets behind us, or whatever that's affecting our magnetics. I can see that being the case too if it's a natural thing, but the likelihood of that is so much lower than I think that something is most definitely intelligently causing this. Whether it's a side effect of something we're doing here on the planet, or if it's coming from outside our planet, I don't know. But that's what I would say to that. But yeah, so if you're getting the ringing in your ears, just like the comment we read a few minutes ago, yeah, most definitely. I mean, I've been getting ringing in my ears off and on for years now, and I used to think it was a medical problem, but then it would go away, and then it would come back, and then it would go away, and then it would come back, and then I started learning about this, and it seemed to always correspond with a spike, almost every time. Not every time, but almost every time. So, yeah. So there we go on that. I want to show you guys this right here. This is a radar signature I picked up the other day. And I was just, skimming through a national radar thing, just kind of looking, just messing around. And I picked this up, and I thought, man, that just looks just like too precise, okay? I mean, it looks like a football stadium is what it looks like if you're looking down on top of it. Okay, you see how, I mean, everything is so symmetrical in the whole, on the whole signature there. And we've been noticing a lot of stuff on our satellites. We have been for a long time, but this one here was kind of strange to me because I went and researched this out. Where this thing was at, there was no rain. And so whatever that was, you know, and Mr. MBB3 has been catching these, you know, he's been showing stuff that looks to be like big ships or whatever in the sky. And being hidden by the clouds and stuff like that. And sometimes they kind of poke through. And I've even done a couple of videos myself on that. I'm just wondering if that might be what this is. Because there was no rain involved with this. Now, I'm not saying that this tool can't mess up, because it most certainly can. Radars mess up all the time. But to be symmetrical, you know, width and lengthwise, and just to be like, it just, to me, it just looks too perfect for it. Because usually a pixel on these things, like when you see a radar going through, guys, we've all seen radar loops, you know, they're pixelized a little bit, and they're usually jagged. You know what I mean? And that's not jagged at all in any way, shape, or form. Even the inside of it is like smooth. So that was just really strange to me. So that's why I went and researched that out a little bit. Found out there was no rain there. So who knows? I just wanted to show it to you. I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, guys, we're going to talk about the Sahara dust plumes real quick. The first one came, the jet stream, when that first one came through, actually did not get down, didn't retreat as far as they thought it was going to. A normal jet stream a lot of times looks kind of like this. And that's why you see low pressures coming along this line and they get sucked out that way. Okay, that's why we see that, because the upper air is moving that way, the jet stream. All right, and that's what's taking these dust plumes out also. Okay, they follow the trade winds and they come over here and they do its thing or whatever. But they were saying there for about a week that they thought the jet stream was going to come up kind of like that. And if that was the case, all that stuff would have come up further north, and they were kind of talking about it could have been hitting Chicago, and as it went out, it might have even got New York and Philadelphia and all those, right? Boston. But it didn't do that, okay? Now, you can see how Florida did get some, so did Texas. All those, the Gulf states there got some of this first wave of a plume, okay, coming off the Sahara Desert. And let me say this real quick. It's a very normal thing for us to see this, okay? It's an interesting topic, and we should talk about it because it is relevant. But also, we have to keep in mind that this is not something that doesn't happen, because this happens every year. They even have a season for it. They were talking about the season of the dust plumes that come across here, like end in like September. Okay, right before the height of the hurricane season hits. All right, but you know, and I got a comment the other day, and I think I even mentioned it. You know, they were saying that 50 years is not that big of an amount of time for Mother Nature or nature, right? And it's not. That was a very valid point, a very valid criticism, because, you know, I had to stop and think about that for a minute. It's like, you know what? They're right, because it's not. Now, it doesn't mean that what we're seeing isn't significant, because it is the biggest one we've seen in like 50 years. But if you put that in the big grand scheme of things, 50 years really is not that long of amount of time. So that's what I would say to that. You know, back hundreds of years ago, I don't think there was any way to even track this kind of stuff. You know, there weren't no satellites up there. So, you know, the stuff like this was probably already happening back then anyway, even at a bigger rate. And I'm sure if we went back and looked at like newspaper clippings and stuff like that, we might even be able to see where they were seeing like crazy looking sunsets and all that kind of stuff in the Gulf states during the same time frame. So that's probably how you could kind of research that out and see when those things were happening. But for right now, guys, I mean, this is the biggest one we haven't seen in 50 years, and that's why we're talking about it. But also, it doesn't mean that it's like such a humongously rare event, because it's not. They put the person that left that comment put that right in perspective for me. 50 years is not that long in nature. So, but we're going to play this time lapse here, and you're going to see the second plume come in. There's that second one right there. And this is what they're doing. They're thinking that it's going to kind of do one of those numbers. And this is from June 28th till July 2nd. And this is what that time lapse is right here. And you can see how it goes up into, Mobile and Houston and all that. And that's the first part of that's that first plume. And these plumes will keep coming, okay? Sometimes they don't make it all the way over here. Sometimes they dissipate. A lot of times this will actually go down towards the Amazon. The sands over there, they actually find minerals that are over in Africa, northern Africa. They find a lot of those same minerals in the Amazon because of this right here. It grabs that sand and it blows it across the Atlantic, and it ends up landing in the Amazon because it rains and stuff over there a lot. So all that stuff hits the ground. So I thought that was an interesting fact. I didn't know that, but that is what happens. So, but yeah, I mean, just if you guys live on the Gulf states, and we'll watch this. If you live on the Gulf states, you'll get to see some good sunsets and stuff. The air quality, I know people ask about that. It doesn't make the air quality all that bad. Yes, if you have respiratory problems, you're going to have to be aware of this kind of stuff. We all have masks right now anyway, so it might be smart to wear one, but that's on you. And they also said this can actually get up to like 20,000 feet high. That's kind of amazing when you think about that. And it traveled like 3,000 to 5,000 miles, I think, to get here. I just thought that was pretty cool. All right, guys. We actually ended up catching a little bit of a sunspot. This thing popped up. Remember how I said these things can pop up really, really quick in like 6 hours? But this one here actually hung around long enough that they actually gave it a number. So it's an official sunspot. And it is from the new solar cycle. Okay, and that's significant because the more and more we see from the new solar cycle, the more and more we're going to be knowing that we're actually in that solar cycle 25. Which means we're going to continue to see this uptick of activity. And so, with that being said, this thing here, and if you look at the blues and reds, it's showing you polarity, okay? A lot of times when those things, like crack open and stuff, man, you'll see flares and things. But you can see here on the disc part of it, doesn't look like much there, but when you actually look at it real close, this is what you see. Okay, so, you take that for whatever it's worth, but, yeah, so you got this one here, and it did break a streak. We've had 134 days this year without sunspots so far. That puts us at 74%. So, whatever that means, we can also, keep going with that, and we can see where we end up in our solar cycle numbers there. It'd be really interesting at the end of the year if this one doesn't come in real close to where we're at now. But judging by what we've already seen, I don't think it will. I think it's going to come in at a way lower percentage because I think we're on an uptick, guys. And I think we're well into going into solar cycle 25. That's just my opinion. Okay? So we got that. And then check this out, guys. This guy caught an L-shaped meteor. And I've shown you guys these YouTube pages before. I'm going to show it to you again right here. Okay. Now you guys heard that, right? What you seen there was an L-shaped meteor. Now what I'm going to do is there's live streams to these things. Okay, guys, this is his YouTube channel, okay? And what you're seeing is, again, I don't want to butcher his name, okay? But please go over and subscribe to him. He's only got 18 subscribers. It'd be nice if you guys went over and just dropped him a sub because he runs a live stream, 24/7 of these meteors, okay? And what this thing is looking for, it actually picks up the trail of it. It's not actually picking up the meteor itself, okay? It's picking up the trail at least behind it. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but that's essentially what it's doing. I've explained that before. I'm sure I'll do it again, but not right now. There's quite a few channels out here that do this. You could just simply put it in the search, live meteor, and there you go. I mean, you'll find some channels out there like that. And this one here is a vertical or horizontal. It's what I call, or I'm not sure if you want to consider this one horizontal or vertical. I guess this one would be who knows, vertical, I guess. Depends on your perspective and which way you're trying to look there. But sometimes they're flipped 90 degrees there, and they'll be moving from left to right. This one goes from up to down. Okay. But they're showing you the same information. It's just in a different model, different visual. So I'll leave a link to this channel here. Go check him out. Show him some love. Maybe we can get him up over 1,000, so you can, if he has any interest at all at monetizing his channel, he may be able to do that. This guy's in Norway, so I think that's cool too. So he was able to pick this up. I'm not sure if this was in his own equipment or not. I don't think it was, but it could be, I guess. Maybe it was. I bet it was. I bet it was his own equipment. So yeah, there you got that. Okay, this is over at Noaa Space Weather Prediction Center. These are our space weather conditions. Okay, and something you're going to notice real quick, is the solar X-ray flux, right? You see how it's starting to tick up? Why is it ticking up? Well, because there was a sunspot that poked up. That's why. Okay, and the more and more sunspots we start seeing, the higher that base level is going to rise, and we'll start seeing a bunch more flares too. When that happens, it's not if. It will happen, guys. All this stuff I'm talking about right now is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I can just tell you that. But our geomagnetic activity was staying pretty low. This here is where that CME, that solar storm, did hit us back there. It didn't do nothing. So wasn't a whole lot to really speak about there. I did talk about it some. Also, seems like we're getting more and more coronal hole patches also. Eventually, guys, anybody that's been with me for any length of time already know that I've shown big ones before. These are really, really small. They're really patchy, so what that means is that as they rotate through, they're not going to last very long. So the solar wind stream will go up just for a second and come right back down. It's not going to be able to get our geomagnetic activity level up enough to really even worry about most of the time. Now, these things have a tendency to grow really, really fast. Okay? And also, we have something called the Parallax Effect. If you see a hole over here, and that thing stays the same size when it gets over here, guess what? It's gonna look that size over there, but by the time it gets here, it'll be this size. That's called the Parallax Effect, and it's when you see stuff on the sides of a sphere, they look smaller than what they are. So that's why. Most of us already know what that is, but I just thought I'd hit on that real quick, just to make sure everybody knows what's going on there. Now, when I seen this, okay, here's this model here, the Enlil model. Now the green up here, that's the conditions at Earth. Now you can see how they're predicting everything just to be dead quiet. Okay, and that may happen. I'm not sure, but we're just going to have to wait and see. The only way that will change is if a coronal hole opens up, or if we have a flare or a CME, something like that. That's what it would take to get that to change. But this is something I noticed today, okay? Now, if you see the orange, right, that's the density. See how it just dropped out to nothing and stayed there? And the solar wind speed went down. Temperature kind of dropped out too. I'm not real sure exactly how far down it went, but that was a direct drop off, and it stayed dropped off. Okay, that's over a day. Okay, we don't typically see density that low. for that extended period of time. And we all, like we've been talking here before, density really, in my opinion, affects the Earth more than what the actual solar wind speed does. Okay, so when we get both high wind and high density at the same time, that's when we take the big hits. Okay, when we got the low dense particles, you know, we don't seem to take that big of a hit, even with higher wind speed. Now, don't get me wrong, we catch a wind speed that's real high, it's going to affect us. I'm not saying that it won't, because it will, most definitely. But the density seems to have more of an effect on us than the actual speed itself. So that, you know, I just thought you guys might want to know that. In my opinion, they've actually wrote some papers and did some articles and peer-reviewed studies and stuff on that now. And they're pretty much concluding that density does have a big role to play in that. So, but yeah, guys, I'm going to come back with you tomorrow probably with another video. I'm going to try. My back is all jacked up, and I'm just having a rough time, but that is what it is. I'll keep reading the guys' comments. Drop them comments down there, guys. I'll read a couple of them out each video, and we'll go from there. So, God bless. Yeshua saves, and you can drink this Kool-Aid.